And joining me now are Samer Majzoub with the Canadian Muslim Forum and Thomas Woodley with Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East. Good to see you both, gentlemen. It's 2 years since this horrific massacre in Quebec City, at the mosque in Quebec City. Why have you come to Parliament Hill today?
Actually, our main target of today's visit and the press conference we held is to remind ourselves, our representatives, the federal government, the importance of taking actions, especially at this commemoration time, to take action against Islamophobia. And what we have done is very simple. We have adopted a campaign to ask the government to implement motion M103, the recommendation number 30 of motion M103, where it asks to have a day of action against Islamophobia and other religious discrimination.
Right. This was a report from the Heritage Committee. A day of remembrance this day, January 29th, right, against Islamophobia and religious discrimination, as I say, recommended by the Heritage Committee. And yet we heard from the Minister of Heritage today, Mr. Woodley, saying, you know, they're still trying to reach consensus on how best to do this with all kinds of different groups. What do you make of that? Is that an appropriate delay? It's been over a year now since the Heritage Committee recommended this.
Well, it is disappointing, and I think he's also talked about consultations and so on. I mean, the M103 motion triggered a study, an intensive study it took them about a year to complete their study. They issued a report. They talked to experts across the board, not just Muslim Canadians, but Canadians of all different backgrounds, all different religions, contributed to the hearings and so on in that report. So I really don't think, I think there is a consensus. I think Parliament has supported that motion M103. So I think there is a strong consensus that, you know, it is time for something to be done. And I think the time for consultations is, there have been sufficient consultations.
Right. Are you concerned that you know, we are in an election year? Are you concerned that political parties and the government, perhaps in this case, are being careful about where to go with this because of the kind of debate we've seen this issue engage before? Do you think there's a delay here because we're in an election year and they're worried about the rhetoric and the conversation?
You know, honestly, we were hoping that this has been behind now, because all this rhetoric of in the media, whether the heated political discussion already took place. And after that, the House of Commons already adopted this recommendation. Yes, during the election years, we are always worried. Unfortunately, as a community, every election, for a reason or another, we are being pulled to be in the middle of, unfortunately, political opportunism and political football, which we always refuse to be as such. And yes, there is some worrisome, but at the same time, we see that the federal government has taken steps into this direction, at least theoretically speaking. Now, all what we're asking is nothing for something new. All what we're asking is to implement what has been adopted by the House of Commons that has the majority of the Liberal government.
If I could just point as well, we have no political intent in doing this. We just want the Muslim Canadian community to receive the protections and to receive that, for there to be focus, that this is something that the country is willing to focus on to prevent something like January 29th ever happening again. There's no reason for this to become politically polarized or anything like this. This sort of request and this campaign stands alone as what's the right thing for Canada to do.
What do the latest numbers tell us about hate crimes and the level of targeting of Muslims in this country?
Well, the Statistics Canada, they came out with a report just 2 or 3 months ago. Religious discrimination across the board is up. It's up against Muslims, that's up against Jews in terms of anti-Semitism. So it is up across the board from 2016 to 2017, there's no doubt. Specifically looking at the Muslim community, it's definitely up against the Muslim community, with far more incidents reported within the Muslim community.
If I may add a couple of things here. First of all, the fact that we had a shooting at a mosque. People were shot because of their religious faith. They were not shot because of any other reason. This is number one. Number two, we as a Canadian Muslim Forum, every organization that works on the ground receives a lot of complaints. But we have to admit that not everyone goes and report this for a reason or another, for different considerations. And this is one of the challenges that we are facing. There is Islamophobia. Just read any piece of news, look at any political platform. You will see that Islamophobia is clear. It is, I would say it openly, it is shameful that we still discuss whether Islamophobia is here or there. It is already there. We are commemorating today the most terror act in the history of Canada because of Islamophobia.
What's the secret, do you think, to moving forward? Some people will suggest that there are institutional problems. I think we've seen statistics that show that the public safety agencies in this country still consider Muslims the biggest threat to Canada, even though there's lots of internal homegrown terror groups as well that seem to, according to some people, get less attention. What is the key to dealing with this issue, putting it in front of Canadians and having it dealt with in such a way that moves the whole society forward?
Yeah. Well, I think the M103 report had a number of excellent recommendations. There were 30 recommendations. Recommendation 30 is the one that talks about making January 29th a National Day of Remembrance. But there are 29 other recommendations which are very good in terms of funding, in terms of for religious groups for security, in terms of normalization of hate crime reporting, to make sure, and communication among different levels of government to properly report and assess the issue, better opportunities in terms of things like accreditation of foreign trained professionals, things like that. So that a whole range of recommendations that I thought were very, very helpful and very productive. Of course, the government has not talked concretely about implementing any of those, but some of it is old, some of it is known, some of it is new. I think some of it was triggered as a result of the January 29, 2017 attack. So there's a whole menu of things that can be done. One final thing which is very important is in terms of training police, training judges, and so on, so that they know better how to handle these types of events and the people involved.
Let me finish on this. We are here today because it's the second anniversary of the shooting at the mosque in Quebec City. And tell me what's happening today, and tell me what the feeling is inside the Muslim community. It's a time to remember, but it's also a time to relive, which must be painful.
Honestly, I can tell you it is heartbreaking. It is in the memory. It is as if it happens only yesterday. We see the children of those who lost their fathers. We see the wives of those who lost their husbands. It is a real tragedy. And this is what makes us more heartbroken as a Canadian, that when things as such are being politicized, we totally forget the victims, the scar, the injury that has been done to the Canadian social fabric, when people are being shot for no reason whatsoever, just for being praying at that time, at that place, someone coming with a machine gun deciding to shoot innocent people. By all means, it has this emotional dimension that we feel so bad when certain, not all politicians, but some politicians try to politicize on this issue instead of really having this one voice, no to Islamophobia, no to hatred, no to xenophobia, and we should put and close this file.
Yeah. And if I could just add, it's not just Muslims who are Muslim Canadians who are standing up today and participating in vigils. It's Canadians of all backgrounds, and because I think what happened on January 29, 2007 could have happened to other religious groups, and so I think other religious groups understand that and realize, no, we need to take a stand with the Muslim community on this issue.
All right, thank you both for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.